Hello guys, welcome to the Medicos era. So today we are going to read about the apoptosis. So in the previous video, I will taught you about the general pathology and the necrosis, and in this video we would like to read about the apoptosis. So what is apoptosis? Apoptosis or a programmed cell death is a highly regulated process that allows a cell to self-degrade in order for the body to eliminate unwanted or dysfunctional cells. During apoptosis, the genome of the cell will fracture, the cell will shrink, and the part of the cell will disintegrate into the smaller apoptotic bodies. Between the 50 to 70 billion cells die each day due to the apoptosis on average human adult. For an average child between the age of 18 to 14, approximately 20 billion to 30 billion cells die in a day. So this is the basically a diagram of the normal apoptosis. I will explain you this. So the first you will see here the normal cell. The normal cell is look like this. It is very well maintained. It's look very normal. Its function very normal. And in the another diagram you can see the cell is shrink. The chromatin of the cell is condensed. It means the size of the cell is decreased, and the, the structure that lie inside the cell is come near, and its integrity will not maintained clearly, as you can see in the diagram too. Now this the another thing that happens after the cell shrinkage, that is membrane bleeding. So in this, basically the membrane lost its its integrity, so it is not able to maintain its shape, and it's you can see easily it's look like a amoeba. It's not able to maintain its proper cell as well. As now the another thing that happens after the membrane bleeding, and that is nuclear collapsing and continue bleeding. So the thing is the nucleus is collapsed, and the thing is the membrane bleeding is continued in this process also. Basically in this process, the nucleus is condensed, and you can say collapse. So the size of the nucleus is the size of the nucleus is decreased, and it is shrink. And in the another step, the apoptotic bodies are formed. So basically apoptotic body, you can see it's small particles that form, or you can say the small bodies that came from that particular cell. You can see it's look like one cell is brushed and divided into so many cells in a little parts, as you can see here. And the lysis of the apoptotic bodies occurs. It means in the lysis that the apoptotic bodies will go in the denaturations. That is a natural process that occurs inside us in a day-to-day life. For example, you just take the example of our stomach. Like billions of cells will shed of our intestine daily, and it will repair daily. And you can take the another example as well, as like the peoples who have acidity problem. At that time when their HCl is came at the esophagus, so due to this their columnar epithelium is replaced by the columnar epithelium is replaced by endothelium, and this is called the metaplasia, because one cell is replaced by the another cell. This is called the metaplasia. And now we came again back to our topic, that is apoptosis. So apoptosis, basically what is that is basically a normal coordinated program cell death. This is basically occur in our body in day-to-day process, because it is required for maintaining the cellular function. Suppose if apoptosis is not occur inside our body, that means the cell will grow inside our body, and if they will not die, then the number of the cells is will increase, and that is not possible for our body to take so many cells inside us, because if the so many cells inside is occurs, then our size will increase. The space will very limited inside our body, and if the number of cells will increase, then it's not able to work. Every cell they maintain their work and maintain the integrity. So due to this, to maintain the integrity and to maintain their function, we would like to do that process that is called apoptosis, to maintain our normal functioning, the cellular homeostasis, you can say. The better word for the why we do or why we need apoptosis is cellular homeostasis. So basically cellular homeostasis, it means to maintain the cellular number of cells inside us is known as cellular apoptosis. If this is break, then our cells will becomes cancer cells. Suppose if we have cancers, then at that particular area we have unlimited or uncountable cells at that particular area. This is called cancer cells. Or in a normal human being, our cells will go the apoptosis and new cells will replace these died cells or that damaged cells. Now let's go in the another segment of this video. That's what is cell death. So cell die by one or two mechanism. The one is the necrosis, death by the injury, and the apoptosis, death by the suicide. So basically I told you apoptosis is always is a physiological process, and while the necrosis, it can be pathological and it can be physiological as well as. So basically the necrosis happens when you have an injury or you give any kind of stress to your body, while in the another hand the apoptosis occurs only by physiological process. So if naturally anything any cells is died inside you, that means the apoptosis. But if suppose if there is any injury or there is any stress inside your body, it may be physical stress or it may be physiological or pathological stress. Suppose like if any injury occurs to your at particular area, suppose you had a roadside accident, and because of this if your cell is died, then this is not a apoptosis, this is a necrosis, because your cell is died because of the injury, not because it is not a natural phenomena, it is died just because of the you know by the roadside accident. So let's go with the another segments. The reason of the apoptosis: withdraw of the positive signals. So here the examples is the growth factors for the neuron, interleukin 2. In the another type, the recipient of the negative signals. Examples: the increased level of oxidants within the cells. Second one is damage to the DNA by oxidants. The third one is death activators, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and you can say TNF alpha. This is basically a tumor necrosis factor that we have inside us, for that is the responsible for to eliminate the tumor cells inside us, and lymphotoxins and past ligands. You can say lymphotoxin as a TNF beta also. So need of the apoptosis. Apoptosis is need for the proper development. Example: the reabsorption of the tadpole tail, the formation of the fingers and the toes of the fetus. So as you guys know, and if you don't know, then I will tell you, during our birth there is a wave which is present between our toes and in our fingers. In at the time of our birth, you can see in the fetus type, not in after birth. It is I'm talking about when we are inside our mother's womb. So at that time we have a wave size. Yeah, waves look like appearance at between our toes and fingers, you can say the. So because we need to destroy that wave, because if this wave is present after the birth, then we are not able to move our fingers, and our fingers are not able to move freely as we have now, and because of this our function will restrict. So for the proper functioning of our limbs, we need to that wave will go under the apoptosis. The example is need to destroy the cells, and the examples are the cells infected by the virus, the cells with the DNA damage, or the cancerous cells. So the basically those cells who need to destroy, or the cells who need apoptosis, they are that is infected by the virus, the cells which DNA is the cells which damages that cells that already have their damaged DNA, and the cancerous cells. Inducer of the apoptosis. These are the things that induce, or you can stimulate the apoptosis. So these are the things. The first one is the TNF family. As I already told you about the TNF alpha and beta in previous slides. You can go back and you can read there. And the next one is the growth factor withdrawal, calcium, oncogens, nutrients deprivations, toxins, UV radiations, and the gamma radiations. So here you can see there the another side is the necrosis and the another one is apoptosis. So in this segment we are going to read about the difference between the apoptosis and the necrosis. So at that time you have a clear crystal image in your mind what is necrosis and what is apoptosis. So now you can easily understand the difference between the apoptosis and necrosis. I hope you guys will understand this easily. Uh, so the first one we like to, I'm talking about the apoptosis. So apoptosis is the functional form of the death. The necrosis, as I told you, the accidental form of the death. The another difference between the apoptosis and the necrosis occurs under the physiological condition, cells under the pathological conditions, that is occurs mainly in the necrosis. It can, yeah, one more thing about the necrosis, it can be physiological or pathological, but the apoptosis always is physiological, but necrosis can be physiological or pathological also. The another difference is the energy ATP dependent, no energy requirement. So basically, if I told you, as I told you, apoptosis is a natural phenomenon. It means if something is occurring by our body and our bodies want to do something, that means it requires energy. So basically it's a very obvious thing. It is very ATP dependent thing. And necrosis, as I told you, it is a pathological, it can be occur due to the injury. So suppose in any injury you don't need any kind of energy, so at that process this is not energy dependent. The another difference is cells shrink and the pulls away from its neighbors. The cells in the necrosis, cell swelling is defining feature. So basically, in the apoptosis, the cell of the bacteria will shrink, and in the necrosis the cell will be, maintain its integrity, and the things that lies inside the, inside that cell, suppose the nucleus, the chromatin, the DNA, RNA, whatever inside the cell will, undergo the lysis, or the thing that inside the cell will damage in the necrosis, and that in the, apoptosis the cell will shrink. The another difference is induced by the physiological stimuli, lack of the growth factors, change in the hormonal environmental. These are the things that stimulates the apoptosis, while in the necrosis, induced by non-pathological disturbances like viruses, hypothermia, hypoxia, ischemia, metabolic poisons. The another difference is that now no inflammation follows the apoptosis. Necrosis always followed by the inflammation. Okay. Now let's talk about the pathways of the apoptosis. So basically, apoptosis have two pathways. The one is extrinsic and the another one is intrinsic. So first we are going to read about the extrinsic pathway. The death ligands, the death receptors, or uh, initiator capsid 8, effector capsid 3. In the intrinsic pathway, DNA damage and p53 is included. Mitochondria and cytochrome C is also included, and initiator caspase 9 is included inside the intrinsic pathway. So now let's specifically talk about the intrinsic pathway. So first we are going to read about the extrinsic pathway. Then after that we are going to read about the intrinsic pathway as well. So first we read about the extrinsic pathway. So extrinsic pathway is a benign outside the cells. It is basically begins outside the cells. Activation of the death receptors, FAS, R, TNF, R, DR3, DRY, or DR5 by the death ligands PAS, L, TNF alpha, apoptosis 3, APO2L play the major role in the extrinsic pathway. The death induced signaling complex DISC activated in the extrinsic pathway. On DISC activation, some effectors pathway as an intrinsic pathway is adopted. Now we are going to read about the intrinsic pathway. Initiated from the, from within the cell, activated in response to the signals such as DNA damage, loss of the cell survival factors, stressed, hanging on the balance between the pro and anti-apoptotic signals of BCL2 family, cytochrome C, ATP, apoptosome activate pro-caspase 9 complex, pro-apoptotic proteins release which activate caspase protease. So this is the end of our cell injury chapter. In these two videos, we read about the necrosis and apoptosis. We read also the introduction of pathology, the terms that basically use in the pathology, as well as in the next video I will upload about the healing, and after that I will upload about the inflammation, what is inflammation, and I will explain this in next video. So please guys, like our channel, subscribe our channel, and don't forget to share our channel. I just personally want you guys share this information with your colleagues, because the things that I taught you is very important for you and for your knowledge. And the information that I collected you is very limited. I collected this information from a particular books, and not only from one book. The information is taken from the another books. For example, I use so many authors to make these ppts. This is not from the one author. So this is very important things for you. These are the things you must know about these particular topics. If you all goes through these topics with honesty, and if you guys follow my all videos, trust me, you are not able to go anywhere. Like, you don't want to go anywhere. Seriously, this is enough. This is more than enough for you guys. You just believe in this video, these things, and the things is in your hand, and we can do everything. Thank you so much for your support and your love.